That was a lot of work right there.
I wasn't sure where I was going with it. This year, we kind of let the Oscars go by without making a bunch of videos telling you about our opinions that no one cares about.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, the Oscars this year were even less interesting than the Oscars last year.
I'm not going to lie. It felt to me like this year's Oscars was an agenda more than a traditional show, more trying to fix the problems that they may or may not have had in the past.
Recently, Mr. James Cameron released a statement during an interview about his opinion of the Oscars. Now, if you're unfamiliar with James Cameron, he made Terminator. He's currently making 5 goddamn Avatar movies that nobody cares about. Like, why are they greenlit for 5 freaking movies?
Of the $100 billion that the blockbuster genre has generated in the last 30 years, he's responsible for $9.5 billion.
Yeah.
You know,
so he did Titanic, kind of a big deal. So he released a statement that said, there's definitely a bias in the Academy. The Academy still has a majority of its members that are actors. Look, I love actors, but that's not how they think. When they see a movie dependent on visual effects, they say, well, that's not an acting movie. Even if the storytelling is just as good, they're not going to reward it the same. So he's essentially saying that the Academy doesn't give a shit about movies that depend on visual effects. What are your thoughts on Mr. Cameron's bitching?
Well, I mean, I'm going to agree. I mean, what do you think about it? I mean, of all the blockbusters that have come through in the last 30 years...
30 years?
20, 30 years.
Right, yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, Titanic's probably one of the few that got any award nomination viewing.
Right. Titanic is like the cardinal example. However, Avatar was nominated for Best Picture, another James Cameron movie. Inception in recent years was nominated for Best Picture.
But was that really truly a blockbuster?
Yeah, it made a shitload of money, very effects dependent. He's talking about not blockbusters. He doesn't say blockbusters. He says visual effects heavy films.
Here. Just because he's pussyfooting around it. But the point being is, like, it goes with the normal misconception that just because a movie has an exceptional budget and is piped for success does not make it any less a quality film.
Well, here's what I'm going to counter with, because I disagree with you a bit on this. I think that if you are having a movie that is largely dependent on visual effects, you do tend to lose a lot of the human character element when your movie is geared like that. Think about Avatar. The movie, a lot of the time, is spent showing you the world of Pandora. It is showing you big, revealing wide shots of the Na'vi. Is that what they're called? The native people. There's a lot of time spent specifically for the way the film looks. And you lose time with dialogue and you lose time developing characters.
Yeah, I think that movie is a bad example because you...
Well, it was one of the ones nominated.
Visually, it is incredible.
Right.
But where you're saying it's a little bit lackluster in the acting aspect...
Right.
That's because it was shitty actors.
I wouldn't say it's shitty actors. It wasn't written particularly well. It was written like Pocahontas.
None of those characters jumped off the page to me. Their performance didn't wow me.
My point is, if I am an artist who takes his craft very, very seriously, and I, like, picture yourself as an actor who wants to be respected for acting. If you're going to watch a Tarantino movie full of long, single-shot dialogue, character-building scenes, and then you watch a movie like even Inception, which was a great movie, are you really gonna favor Inception, which has to do so much about its plot and so much to build its world, when you could do a Tarantino film full of human emotion, full of people evolving?
But it really breaks down to who you're bringing into the movie. And I mean, it doesn't need to necessarily be a big name actor, but like when you talk about Inception, who are you talking about?
Talking about, I guess, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's an actor that, yes, he has a big name, but his skill set is also the kind of skill set that, despite everything that's going on around him, he's got the talent to make his character jump off the page.
Okay, he
and
does.
That's what you need.
But unfortunately, writing, an actor can only do so much with what is written. And Inception spends probably 50% of the movie explaining how the world works, explaining the rules of Inception, and explaining where the plot is going to go. In The Hateful Eight, everyone is in one lodge, talking and worrying about who's killing who. Pulp Fiction, everyone, it's all about the interactions of characters. Inception is about the way the plot moves characters. So it comes down to character-driven versus plot-driven. Almost every blockbuster, even Titanic, the cardinal example, is plot-driven.
But in explaining the universe...
Right.
Does that necessarily mean that it has to be plot-driven just because
no,
there's
okay,
things to
but
teach
let's
you?
not get lost in plot-driven. Let's explore the fact that all the dialogue that they're using to explain the universe is not building character. It is building the universe. And you are losing emotion and losing character development because you have to develop the world, which is fine, but it's not going to have that level of quality.
And that's where you go to, like, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And... you know what? Yes, sometimes you want more dialogue to develop that character.
Right.
But sometimes a picture can tell the story with 1,000 words. And I think by discriminating against some of these movies that, like, Cameron's doing,
right,
you are discriminating from a different style of telling a story. I mean, you're still telling a story. You're using other avenues to fill in some of your gaps.
Okay.
And like I said, not all these movies are going to be Oscar quality, but
right.
I'm saying you can't negate them
what
all.
Cameron is complaining about is that they are actors and that the actors are prioritizing acting. So you're saying that the cinematography and the effects of the world can do just as much as acting can.
If done right.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I do agree with you a bit on the fact that acting is overvalued in the Academy. All you have to do is look at the structure of the Oscars.
I mean, let's get it right. I mean, you know what? The people who are tuning in
right.
to see, they want to see who's going to win Best Actor.
Right.
Or Best Actress.
But, and I think a lot of that is pushed by the Academy because they put Best Actor and Best Actress after Best Director. That blows my mind. To me, the director will always be the most important person.
He might be the most
movie.
important, but they're going with the people who are most recognizable.
Right, they're
and
going for ratings. Right.
I get that, but I'm also going to bring up the point that though they gloss it over and they quickly turn the music on to get these people off stage as fast as possible, with the people who are involved in the costume design or the music or the visual effects, they're winning Oscars too.
So
there's a reason why.
Let me ask you a big question, okay?
I'll hopefully give you a small answer.
In the past couple of years, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Which blockbuster or visual effects-driven movies are actually objectively better than the drama movies that have been winning? So when I say the drama movies that have been winning, I mean Spotlight, Moonlight, all of these very dialogue-driven movies. So what blockbusters are better quality as far as the Oscar standards than those movies?
Way to go. You just asked a question that derailed the whole flow.
How does that derail anything?
Because I don't have the blockbusters in the top of my head.
That's my point. There aren't blockbusters on the quality level of a movie like Spotlight.
I would not have remembered last year's nominations like Spotlight off the top of my head.
Just take any blockbuster outside of, I don't know, like Avatar, Titanic, and Inception we talked about. Are there even any other blockbusters, they don't have to have been nominated, that you think should have been nominated? Any other blockbusters that have come out that are good, that are top-level movies? You know what visual effects movies really are, Jay? They're the Avengers, okay? They're Transformers. They're the Jungle Book. Where are the good movies in that category?
Off the top of my head, I'd have to come back to you on that because I really can't think of it right now because I wasn't prepared for it.
I'm generally thinking this too. I can't think of a blockbuster that is that high level.
But at the same point, I'm not necessarily saying that the movies that have passed by recently should have been in that conversation.
Right.
I'm merely saying that we should be open to the fact that there's other avenues to tell the story.
Okay, and I think you do have a valid point, because I do agree to the extent that acting is overvalued by the Academy. I agree with that. I just don't agree as much with the stance that James Cameron is taking.
It's like everything else. I mean, yes, these parts are impactful and these parts are impactful too, but you need them all to tell the story.
So what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with James Cameron? Do you think that we need to shift towards these big market movies winning so the Oscars can enhance their audience retention? Or do you think there is an artistic divide? And watch part 2 of this video where we talk about another bias in the Oscars, which is political current issues, which will be in another video coming soon at the end.